All right, take number what the heck ever. Let's try to do this as quick as possible so I don't have a 16-minute video of me rambling on. Let's get into what's going on with the channel this year and what's affecting it. Of course, I don't film a lot during the winter time. I'm not a snowmobiler, so sorry snowmobile guys. I prefer Sea-Doos and I prefer ATVs and things on three wheels. So, that's why nothing's been going on. Now, what are our plans for this year? Well, there's going to be a lot more personal watercraft content. More so, I'm going to say Sea-Doo because we own Sea-Doos. So, I did a lot more Sea-Doo stuff last year, and the reason for that was I didn't have a whole lot of time to drive 4 hours north because that's pretty much wherever we have to go if we're going ATVing. So, since Lake Erie is half an hour from my house, that it just worked out better. So, we will be doing quite a bit more Sea-Doo stuff this year because I went to a Sea-Doo Social Club event where I had the pleasure of meeting brand ambassador Octane, who is a super cool guy. It was awesome to meet you. If you're watching this channel, thank you very much. And thank you, BRP and Sea-Doo, for putting on such a great event because it was a fantastic time. At the same event, I got to hook up with the guys from Toronto Jet Ski. These guys rent out jet skis, but they also put on one good ride, at least on a Saturday or a Sunday throughout the summer months, so that most people can attend these. We will be attending most of the events that line up with our schedules. There's a poker run coming up in Toronto. There is a Muskoka event as well. I can't remember if that's on Lake Simcoe or not. There is also a ride around the Thousand Islands, which is a awesome location. I believe they go back and forth from the Ontario side to the US side. And then the one trip that I'm really looking forward to as a season ender is Tobermory, which is a fantastic location. The water is crystal clear. It is a place that I frequent a lot, and I've always wanted to ride a Sea-Doo there. So I'm definitely going to make it up to that. On top of that, there is one epic adventure that is possibly in the works. When we were talking with Dan, he wanted to come back and ride sometime in August here in Ontario. And I was talking to Pedro, the president of Toronto Jet Ski, and I figured he would be the best person to host this event since he has the most leverage and he's good at putting on these type of things. The possibility is a epic adventure from Lake Ontario to Georgian Bay through the Trent Severn Waterway, which would take us 4 days to complete, basically stopping and camping along the way because you can't ride a PWC at night. That trip will be limited to a certain amount of riders, and hopefully Dan will be able to come up and join us for that. I don't know if the thing is certain because the event was there and then it disappeared, but if it does happen, we are going to try to make that because it will be epic. The catch is we will have to have somebody drop us off and pick us up because we'll be starting down here and ending all the way up here. So, if you like Sea-Doo stuff, you're in for a bunch of it this year because we are also returning to the Bad River where I had my little misadventure last year. We are going to make it down those rapids. Those were the final rapids in our way to reach the Devil's Door. Now, depending on the water level, we might run the Devil's Door. If the death roller is there, we will not do that because nobody needs to die over this. Potentially by then, Nate will not be riding the second 215. He may have a toy of his own that I'm excited to get my hands on and try it out because this thing is going to be absolutely insane. And maybe that might swayed my decisions for future things. That's as far as I'm going to go on that. Now, let's get into the ATV side of things. We'll most likely be doing the Outhouse Trail in Minden again because it's a great trail. Possibly going to the Minden Off-Road Park. Also, we may do a couple more ATV trips with Jordan because I might have more time on my hands this year. And we'll get into why that may be. Other than that, I'm going to try to make Skegtober because every single year that I try to make it, something else pops up and I never can. So we'll see if we make it this year or not. I've still been wanting to ride with the guys out by Kingston, and it never seems to line up. I just don't have the time to do it, and or the weather's crap. And that's about like a 5-hour drive for me from where I am. Let's get into the factors now affecting the channel this year, because there's a whole bunch of them. Let's get into the top one. So, I wanted to at least make it to the USA, to go to Silver Lake Sand Dunes, and potentially Busco Beach. May not be able to do that now, because the Canadian dollar is about to go to crap, because Canada and the US are in a pissing match with each other. I'm going to stay out of it. I'm not going to touch on that, because I love my American viewers and my American friends. And frankly, I think our leader is as dumb as a sack of rocks, and no wonder they don't respect him. I don't respect him, and we're going to end that right there where that is. We'll just leave that there. I could do a whole video on my personal opinions and political stuff, but that's not good for me. So we'll just leave that as it is. Now, back to the riding stuff. So, collect my thoughts. Because the Canadian dollar is going to take a swan dive into a rock, it would make travel to the US very expensive for me, so most of my ride videos will be here in Ontario. On top of that, factor number 2, the reason why I'm going to have more time on my hands is I have a different job. I used to run heavy equipment in the aggregate business, and I used to work 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, so 50 hours. And I only had weekends off. I rarely had time off of work because technically I was seasonal. Now I operate heavy equipment in the steel industry. So guess what that means? Well, before we get to that part, let's just say it's not a real good time to be in the steel industry with everything that's going on. But my schedule changes back and forth. Sometimes I may work 4 10-hour days and I have a 3-day weekend. Other times, depending on my position, I might be doing 12-hour rotational shifts, which is great because sometimes I get a couple days off in the middle of the week to do something, and every other weekend I get 3 days off. Plus, I'll actually be entitled to time off of work, which means if, say, I wanted to go down to Florida and hook up with Dan and go ride Sea-Doos around the Florida Keys or to the Bahamas, I very well can. So I'm greatly looking forward to that. And now let's get into the third and final factor affecting the channel. And this mostly affects me and Brian. You've seen me do updates in this little corner, this little room here that I've kind of set up as a studio. And it's not normally where I've done my update videos in the past. And that is because the bombshell is I bought a house and he bought a house. So now those are taking up most of our time and our money because now we have mortgages to pay, we've got bills to pay, and hydro and natural gas is not so cheap in Ontario. So we've got a different set of priorities now, but we still want to make time to be able to do these videos and bring you guys some content as well, because even though our lives are changing, we still need to get away from all the BS. Now, the downfall about my place is I do need to do quite a few renovations, which eat into my money set aside for trips and rides. So that's one. The other thing is I don't have a garage here. And if I were to build one, I'm looking at $150,000 or $200,000, and that's not in the budget. And I can't just put up a cheap steel shelter because the west winds from the open field across from me will just absolutely demolish it. So hopefully I will be getting a shipping container which I can convert into a storage/workshop, and that should be good enough for me for now. Meanwhile, at least over at Brian's place, most of his renovations are done, and he actually has a shop. So guess what? we finally have a garage of our own. Octane Garage very well could become a thing, and it will be nice that we have our own place that we can do whatever the hell we want. We can set it up to however we want it. We can do whatever we want in it, and we don't have to worry about being kicked out at a moment's notice. So, yeah. The thing is, house prices in Ontario are atrocious. So that has basically kicked both of us in the nuts, him more so than me. But as for buying new units and doing really big things, we're kind of kneecapped on that. So just don't expect too much, but we're going to continue to do what we can do with what we have. So Brian has his own Sea-Doo now. He may have a second Sea-Doo, depending on if he buys our other two-stroke. He bought my dad's 1986 580 SP, and he might be buying our 1998 GTS 720, which is the purple one that you've seen me use in some of the videos. We do have the two Bumblebee 215s that my dad owns. Technically, one is his, one is my mom's. They are not mine, however, I do have access to them, so we will do what we can do with what we have, and depending on if we do more ATV stuff than Sea-Doo stuff, or more Sea-Doo stuff than ATV stuff, we will see what happens in 2026, because this October I hit the big 3-0, and I would like to do something for it. But it all depends on how this economy goes and what I manage to get accomplished this year and how things go with the new job. If you've stuck with me this far, thank you very much for watching. And if you like what we do, consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you have subscribed, thank you very much. Consider liking, leaving a comment. And if there's something you would like to see us do or recommend us do, put it in the comments below this video. I will read them, and I will see if I can somehow incorporate that into this year's videos. I do need to pick up some more batteries for my GoPro because it likes to eat them for some reason. And actually, I've heard I could do a hard reset possibly and jump these batteries back to life. So I'll try that, see what happens. And picking up a drone might be a good idea too, but that depends on if it's in the cards and if it's in the expenses. Other than that, we'll see what happens. If you guys want to see some work done on some cars, if you want to see some truck work done, I know eventually I should refresh this Silverado because I am not paying $80,000 for a new one. And frankly, it still does what I need it to do. Would I like another Ram? Maybe, but I don't have the money for that because there are other things that I want. Anyways, I am rambling now on useless shit, so I will catch you guys on the next one whenever that happens. Until then, cheers.